I've been watching behind the scenes footage from Hollywood and stealing little tricks and techniques to use in my own lower budget productions. Some of them worked, some of them did not. So I'm going to give you the most simple and effective ones that I now use on every single shoot. I'll explain why you don't need a massive budget and what you actually get from using them. Good artists copy, but great artists steal. Now this quote is from someone who is much wiser than me, but a couple of years ago I come across it and wondered how can I apply this to my own passion. I decided to explore the best looking content I could find, from TV shows to Hollywood movies. I went to find as much behind the scenes footage as I could. I would then study this footage, taking tricks and techniques and trying to incorporate them into my own creative process. The main challenge I faced was limited budget, as most of the impressive productions had unlimited resources, massive crews, top of the line equipment, but I was not going to let that stop me. I began experimenting with various different strategies, and while some did not work without the necessary budget and crew members, I did manage to find a few things that I think are massively overlooked. I now use these in my workflow on a regular basis, and most of all, I noticed that there is still people out there making these mistakes that I used to make. I'm going to share my top 3, and even if you can only implement one, I promise that you will see an improvement in your videos. So please hit the subscribe button and let's dive in. Okay, so this is all about how our minds work when we are watching video. For example, think of a video that someone has recorded on their phone. One of the first things that you might notice inside that footage is how the camera is moving around. There is no definitive right or wrong answer here, and a cool example is when a TikTok or Instagram influencer may choose to shoot something on their smartphone even though they have access to more expensive and better camera equipment. Or take how Mr. Beast has pretty much unlimited budget but chooses to only deliver in 1080p. This is because they are trying to create a specific look that connects with their audience. So how does this help us when we're trying to create cinematic images? Let's take a look at what Hollywood does. They'll normally use some kind of specialist equipment like a Steadicam or a crane or even like a techno crane. And this is normally out of the realms for any kind of medium to small budget production. But there is one more way that big budget productions will move the camera. This is handheld. So how do they get their handheld shots? Let's think about what you never see them do. You will never see them using their hands and letting their arms and hands take all the weight of the camera, because this takes us back to the appearance of, say, a smartphone or a handheld kind of home video look. What I have seen from looking at BTS footage from bigger productions is they are mostly always on their shoulder. Shoulder rigs are so popular for big budget cinema cameras. The way the camera moves and looks when on a shoulder is something we are all used to seeing from sitting in a cinema seat. There is situations where they may need to get the camera lower but still need a handheld shot, and for this they would normally use an easy rig to take the weight of the camera off of the arms to avoid that kind of shaky handheld look, and it has almost a boat motion to it. But whenever you can, place your handheld shots on your shoulder and I promise you, you will see an instant improvement. The second thing, to be totally honest, I thought was a bit of a gimmick. When I first considered spending money on it, my initial thought was, how does this improve my overall video? But I was totally wrong. As you've probably heard by now, great film and video is a team effort. So when I was working by myself with just a client or with a crew smaller than 3 people, I just did not think I needed this. But what this has let me do is find better angles, like my shots better, find the shots where I've missed focus, get instant feedback from producers, makeup artists, stylists, and even directors. I am talking about an external director's monitor. When you see behind the scenes footage for those big productions and you see monitors just scattered everywhere, there is good reason for it. By having just one director's monitor on your shoots, it can really enhance your footage. No matter how much you think you do not need it, trust me, once you use one, it's a game changer. Like any good YouTube video, I save my best until last. This was a real gem of a discovery for me. While watching BTS footage, I noticed that there was multiple cameras all over the set. Now, I know what you're thinking here. They was just shooting multiple angles. But here's the thing, the cameras was just sat doing nothing. There was one camera doing the actual shooting and all the other cameras was just sat there turned off. And it was at this point that I discovered what the actual difference was between these cameras. It was not camera body, it was not lenses, but more importantly, it was what they was actually sitting on. If you have ever used a gimbal, you will know exactly what this problem solves. Picture this. You're deep into a shoot, coming towards the end of the day, and you're pretty tired and worn out. You're just wrapping up a tripod or a shoulder mount shot, and then you look at the shot list and the next shot up is a gimbal shot. The energy required to unmount your camera, de-rig it, and then set up the gimbal and set up to balance is a lot. I realised that this not only ate into my shooting time, but also the energy that is required for composing shots, lighting shots, and the 1,000 other things that you are juggling on a small budget production. Having a second unit camera that does not capture a second angle, but is rigged up in a different style of shooting, like a gimbal, is pure genius. It brings so much time and freedom for me. It doesn't even matter if the second unit camera is of worse quality. What you gain in creative energy is worth so much more than, say, losing a stock of 2 of dynamic range. So don't think that you only need a second camera to capture a second angle. Think of it as kind of a creative time-saving tool. Even if you can't implement these changes right away, just like I couldn't when I first started experimenting with these techniques, set them as goals and use them as motivation just as I did. And in the meantime, if you're wondering what camera I use as my second unit, watch this video right here.